So what happens when a country's entire identity, an identity built on pristine nature, smashes head-on with its ambition for the future? That's what we're looking at today in the Commonwealth of Dominica. It's an island nation facing a massive choice. Can you carve out progress from your most valuable asset without, destroying it in the process? Let's get into it. For years, Dominica has built this incredible reputation as the nature island. And you have to understand, this isn't just some catchy slogan for tourists. It's the very foundation of their economy. It's what makes them unique. And right now, that core identity is at the very center of a huge national debate. So what could possibly be big enough to challenge that identity? Well, how about a brand new gateway to the rest of the world? Dominica has launched this massive plan to totally transform its economy and connect itself to the globe like never before. We are talking about a $370 million international airport. This thing is the largest infrastructure project in the country's entire history. And the goal here isn't just about making travel easier. This is the centerpiece of a national strategy for what leaders are calling Leapfrog GDP growth, a way to build a stronger economy and unlock all kinds of new opportunities. Okay, but here's the catch. To build a runway that can handle big, long-haul jets, you need an unbelievably strong foundation. You don't just pour some asphalt. You literally need a mountain's worth of crushed rock. And that one simple physical need has created a massive dilemma that really cuts to the heart of what this nation is all about. So what was the government solution? Well, they looked right next door to where the airport's being built and came up with what they see as a completely pragmatic, common sense answer to this huge logistical problem. This slide really breaks down the government's thinking, and you can see it's all about logistics. On one hand, you have sourcing the rock locally from a quarry called De Branches. It's seen as cost-effective, it keeps the project on time, and it has a much lower carbon footprint. On the other hand, importing all that rock is described as economically absurd and a surefire way to inflate costs and cause delays. And this quote from the Prime Minister really frames their position perfectly. It's posed as a choice about self-reliance, using a little bit of what you have now to build something better for the next generation. Seems pretty straightforward, right? Well, this is where it gets really complicated. Because that small portion of their own resources just happens to be located in one of the most ecologically fragile and culturally important areas in the entire country. So let's take a look at the real price of this so-called pragmatic solution. And this right here is the question at the core of this whole thing. What's the real cost of saving some time and money on this project? It forces you to look past the spreadsheets and deep into the very ecosystem that makes the island what it is. You see, this isn't just any old piece of land. The quarry site is in a watershed that's the lifeblood for the Pua River. It's right up against a legally protected forest reserve. It's a key habitat for the endangered Sisserou Parrot, which is the national bird. And critically, these are sacred lands for the indigenous Kalinago people. It's not one thing, it's a whole interconnected web of life, water, and culture. Now, critics are saying the damage is already happening and that laws are being broken. They're talking about rivers turning from clear to brown because of sediment runoff. The constant noise from heavy machinery is allegedly disturbing protected wildlife. And the Kalinago chief says his community was flat out ignored, which flies in the face of consultation requirements. And look, this isn't just some abstract environmental issue. People are feeling the effects directly. Residents have started reporting skin problems after being in the river water. They've also seen a drop in aquatic life, like the freshwater shrimp that are a key part of the local food chain. When the river gets sick, it's a sign that the whole ecosystem is in trouble. So, just when you think this is a classic story of development versus the environment, a whole new layer gets added to the mix, one that raises serious questions about the very foundation of the project itself. This question blew up after an independent geological report came out. It suggested that the rock being dug up might not only be hurting the environment, but it might be completely wrong for the job it's supposed to do. So this report from Professor Simon Mitchell found the rock there is weak and brittle, which is pretty much the last thing you want for a billion-dollar runway foundation. But here's the kicker. The report also confirmed the presence of copper in the area. And that has fueled this huge fear that the quarry isn't really about the airport at all, but that it's just a cover to start mining in a protected area. All of this brings us right back to that central dilemma. This single project has forced the entire nation of Dominica to look in the mirror and decide what its identity really means and what kind of future it's actually building. To really get what's at stake, you have to understand this concept of natural capital. It's not just a fancy term. It's the idea that a nation's natural assets, its clean water, healthy forests, unique wildlife, that whole web of life, are a form of actual wealth. And for Dominica, you could argue that its natural capital is its most precious asset. And that, according to critics, is the real problem here. This whole mess comes from a failure to put a price on that natural capital when making these big decisions. The cost of a damaged river or a threatened species doesn't show up on the initial budget, right? But those costs are real, and they could stick around for generations. But this isn't just about saying no. Opponents argue there's another, truly pragmatic alternative. They suggest getting the rock from existing industrial quarries over on the island's west coast. Sure, it would be more complicated, probably more expensive, but they say it would protect this incredibly sensitive ecosystem and strike a real balance between development and preservation. At the end of the day, this fight is about so much more than a quarry. It's about how a nation acts as a steward for what it has been given. This quote just captures it perfectly. It's about whether every ton of rock has been weighed against the future health of the rivers and forests that are the very heart of the country. Can the nature island get its gateway to the world without trading away its soul? That's the question they're facing right now.